the percentages of even hitting $1 million in revenue, it is very difficult. And, the things that we've been talking about, like having grit, usually the founder can grit their way up to the $1 million in ceiling. And then I always feel the ceiling typically is the leadership of the business. And what I found in businesses that we are acquiring, or even now our consulting division, it's usually because the founder, their head is in the weeds. They're in too many decisions. They're not, they don't have a few of the key roles where they are able to delegate different processes. And it goes back to those two things, having the right people and the right systems, and then taking a step back. And we've seen our businesses scale rapidly from 1 million, 10 up to, 100 million in revenue by implementing these type of systems in our own business as well as in our consulting division.
Fastlane Founders and Legacy with Jason Barnard. Each week, Jason sits down with successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, and executives and get them to share how they mastered the delicate balance between rapid growth and enduring success in the business world. How can we quickly build a profitable business that stands the test of time and becomes our legacy? A legacy we're proud of. Fastlane Founders and Legacy with Jason Barnard.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Fastlane Founders and Legacy with me, Jason Barnard, and a quick hello, and we're good to go. Welcome to the show, Josh Davis.
Thank you so much, Jason. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely delightful. Grit to exit. You turn companies around, you found companies, but we're going to be focusing on exit or not to exit.
Okay.
And grit.
Yeah.
I suppose whether you exit or not, you still need grit.
Oh, totally. I agree with that for sure.
Right. Okay. Well, you're the boss of grit and exit, and I'm up for this conversation. Before we start, I looked your name up on Google, and you have huge competition from a very famous American swimmer. And this is a problem for many people, is that you share your name with other people.
Yes.
And some of those people are famous. Does that bother you?
No, not at all, actually.
Brilliant. Okay, so I think it bothers everybody, but it absolutely doesn't. But then if we look on AI, we can see here that if I look at AI mode on Google for your name, we have a swimmer and an American footballer. So that's double whammy for you.
Yep.
Then I look at Josh Davis, entrepreneur, and you come out on top. Well done.
Okay, there we go. I'm glad to see that.
So what we call that is a qualifier term. So entrepreneur immediately qualifies, but you actually have competition there with Joshua Davis of Gelato Fiasco. But AI mode for me is something that I'm looking forward to, because this is very static and uni-person, i.e. it's only showing one person.
Yeah.
It's showing the dominant person. Whereas here, when we look, we see that we have the choice.
Okay.
With AI mode, there's more choice, whether it be here or here with the generic term or here with entrepreneur. And my personal feeling is AI mode, ChatGPT is a boon, because you can dig down really easily.
Totally. I agree with that. Yeah.
And it makes your life as an entrepreneur and being recognized for what you do both easier and more difficult at the same time, because it's easier in the sense that people will dig down. It's more difficult in the sense that it's harder to control the narrative with an unpredictable AI than it was with Google search when these results were very predictable.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, interesting.
Cool. This is my bread and butter. Every day I talk about this stuff.
Okay, I like it. I just learned something. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and get this. I've been doing this 13 years and it still doesn't get boring. But I would imagine grit to exit doesn't get boring either. Tell me what your approach is, because you come in and turn companies around. And my understanding is that people, processes, and performance are the big three.
Yep.
What's generally speaking the failure, and why do they call you in?
Why do they call me in? Most of the turnaround situations that, that we've done are actually companies that we acquired. So, originally it started off was businesses that we acquired. And part of the reason why we were doing turnaround situations was because we basically bootstrapped our business. We didn't have outside investment besides, bank debt and leverage. So that's, I mean, I was kind of forced into it because I wanted to do acquisitions and I didn't have a big capital pool to do large acquisitions with, strong management teams and systems and things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you acquired companies for relatively little money because they were failing or not performing as well as they could, and then you turn them around with the CEO in place. How does that work?
So originally when we would do the acquisition, I would be stepping in as CEO of that operation.
Okay.
Yeah. So usually these businesses were like founder led. Maybe they've been in business for, 20 years. And, they aren't able to keep up with technology. Businesses significantly change, especially in the past 10 years with, different sales and marketing and all the different strategies that you need to do in order to be competitive. So that's really what we were looking for. So founder-led businesses, owners that were ready to retire, weren't, really keeping up with the changes of the business landscape. And so we'd step in and I'd step in as CEO. My wife would step in on the chief technology officer. So she would like streamline all the tech and the systems. She's very detail oriented and organized. And I was more focused on, the people, putting the right people in the right seats, the strategy, and then we would do bolt-on acquisitions to scale the business.
Right. So I'm sorry, I misunderstood that in the sense that you come in and you take control. Now, coming into a company you don't know anything about, how do you identify which of the people, processes, and performance you need to focus on?
Yeah. So originally we'd have quite substantial due diligence meetings with the founder. So we'd really kind of dig in and try to understand the business. We'd always start with the people. So we analyze each of the team members, what their roles are, what their backgrounds are, and then getting feedback from the owner. So we'd first like get kind of a high level understanding of the team. The next thing we do is look at the systems, and typically the businesses that we were acquiring, they didn't have a lot of tech and systems. So that part was quite simple. And then from there, we would just develop kind of the high level strategy of what we were going to do once we got in there. So really it was, as best as we could, trusting the founder and the information that we got from them. But really, I mean, going back to the grit thing that we started talking about, I mean, even if you get that information, you get into a situation like that, you got to have grit. You got to move with a sense of urgency. You got to, make sure you give everyone an opportunity to get on the bus, making sure that, you're setting clear expectations and then a vision of where the company is going to go. So, yeah.
Right. So you need the people on board. The people who are already there have made the business what it is. It could be better. And you need to guide the people who are on the bus to make it better.
Yeah.
You also need processes. And that seems to be the weak spot for most businesses. Not having the processes. If you don't have a process, you can't automate.
That's true. Yep. I agree with that. So, and that's where my wife comes in. Like my wife's background was, she got a business degree and then she worked for one of the largest shipping companies in the world. And so she got very focused on how systems can be automated and processed to streamline operations and help the business grow. So she got that experience from a large international company, and she was able to learn a lot through that. But she also realized there's things that you can do in small to medium-sized businesses that you can't do in these large organizations. So when we starting our business a week after our honeymoon, that was something she was really focused on. And I mean, I can't take credit for kind of what she did at the beginning because I was actually against it. She really wanted to build in-house software to streamline our operations. So especially, 10 years ago, it was very expensive hiring programmers to build in-house software. So I was originally against it, but once it was actually built, it totally transformed our operations. It streamlined processes, gave us visibility on metrics. And actually it became a tool for us to attract top talent into the industry that we were in, because we were a tech focused, logistics firm. So it was something that I was reluctant at the beginning, but I turned out to be a big fan of our systems, processes, and technology.
Right. No, that gives me the idea that what you're doing is going in, saying to the people, okay, you've got a business that works. Can you put down on paper or in documentation of some sort the processes that you're using? If they then do that, then you can create the bespoke software that automates it.
Yeah.
Which means that at the end of the day, you're going to replace the people. Does that not create friction?
That's a good question. I guess in some situations that did happen, but I think in the businesses that we were acquiring, because they were obviously a little bit distressed, so we actually needed the people. So even though we would put new technology and systems, and then the next step is, I'm very strong at building sales teams and doing sales. So once we scaled the business and did sales, we would still need those people, but maybe with, better technology and systems, we wouldn't have to, especially when everything didn't rely so heavily on each individual person and the intellectual knowledge. It would help us scale with not adding as much headcount as the business traditionally had to. So,
which is brilliant.
Yeah, that was our kind of secret sauce. Yeah.
So the reassurance for the people is you're going to stay. We're just going to scale this up, and your personal contribution is going to make more of a difference.
Exactly. Yep.
Which is beautiful. So when you come into a company, and this is kind of one thing I've been thinking about the last year and a half, is you've got marketing, sales, production, let's say.
Yep.
How do you know which one to focus on?
Marketing, sales, production. So the first thing I always focus on, and Jason, we were buying businesses that had been, they had to be in business at least 10 years. Usually it was 20 years. So they had, and especially if you're buying a distressed business, there's usually some leadership, people challenges. So what are we really buying? And we were looking for strong customer lists. So businesses with a good history of strong customers. So the first thing we'd always start on is account management and sales of the existing business. And we found in most of the businesses that we acquired, that's where things were lacking. The ability to, usually it was like relied so heavily on the founder. The founder was like very actively involved in all the sales and the relationships. And obviously you can only handle so much of that. So that was really our first step. Get in there, build relationships with the existing customers, and look how we can expand and make those into anchor accounts. So that was always our focus at the beginning.
Well, I like the idea of anchor accounts. It is very true that acquiring a customer takes significantly more effort and investment than keeping one or expanding what they're actually using.
Totally. Yep.
Okay, brilliant. So my next question is people.
Okay.
So you've now got the business back on track and you're expanding. You don't need as many people as you would traditionally need because you've automated, but you still need people.
Of course.
How do you get the right people, and what's the timeline?
Yeah. So one thing that we, that's the biggest challenge is recruiting top talent. So that's where we actually built like a human capital division. So it started out as a division that would support our acquisitions or our investments. And then, we realized we actually got quite skilled at recruiting and attracting the right talent. And then through that, we actually built leadership development programs, because it's one thing to attract the right talent, but it's another to retain it. So we built a human capital firm, and that's actually scaling quite significantly right now. And like I said, originally it was for our existing businesses, and now we actually use it to the market. So I've always been passionate about the recruiting side of the business and bringing the right talent into the businesses that we ran. So I've got a little bit of a leg up because I own a human capital firm.
Yeah. And actually finding the right people, we found that hugely difficult at CaliQ. When you find the right people, it's wonderful. But the failure rate is quite high. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. So, you mean failure rate of hiring
Well,
people?
people who come on board and after 3 months you realize either we realize that they're not a good fit or they realize that it's not a comfortable place for them to be. I found that that's, for me, failure rate has been quite high. What
Yeah.
can I do to mitigate it?
Yeah. There's a few things you can do. I think the big one, at least for us, we realized is that if you really want to bring someone, especially if it's a key role, like a leadership role, just having
Mhm.
job postings, that's one thing. We've gotten lucky and got great talent through job postings, but really it's a few things. But one thing is like going after and headhunting talent. And sometimes the people that you're looking for, it may not, and I've been successful at this, it's like they may not actually be in your industry. So like really
Oh,
analyzing and making sure you got to think like, what type of person fits for this role? And I always talk about, attitude, character, values first, and then second is skills. I believe skills can be taught, especially in today's age. You have got to continue to
mhm.
upskill, and you can invest in people to get the right skills. So I always focus on attitude, character, values. That's the first part. The second part is we run a pretty rigorous process to make sure that we are finding the right fit and the right people. And we're very open about that. This isn't like, we don't make quick decisions when it comes to hiring. We want to make sure we find the right fit that fits for both of us for that exact same
Mhm.
reason. Years ago, I think it was a good fit. Everything looked good on the resume. And like you said, 3 months later, it doesn't work out. So just getting really strong at that process and going through the recruiting process. And then another big thing that we implemented about 5 years ago was bringing them into the office and testing it out. So having test projects, we'd come up with something that was designed specifically for their role to give them an opportunity to see how they can think and work through a real life situation inside our business. So once we did that, our success rate went up significantly.
Oh, brilliant. Super. We can learn a lot from that. The next question is about the $1 million ceiling. I hear this all the time. I keep talking about it. Do you find that you come into businesses where the CEO founder has hit that $1 million ceiling and you can take them through it?
Yes, I mean it's interesting, and I always say this to business owners, like even the percentages of even hitting $1 million in revenue, it is very difficult. And the things that we've been talking about, like having grit, usually the founder can grit their way up to the $1 million in ceiling, and then I always feel the ceiling usually typically is the leadership of the business. And what I found in businesses that we are acquiring, or even now our consulting division, um, it's usually because the founder, their head is in the weeds. They're in too many
Mhm.
decisions. They're not, they don't have a few of the key roles where they are able to delegate different processes. Typically, they don't have a strong executive assistant to be able to protect their time and take off the administrative duties.
Mm.
So yeah, there's a number of things that we help founders through our consulting division to kind of get out of the weeds, take a step back, and instead of working so heavily in the business, start working on the business. And it goes back to those two things: having the right people and the right systems, and then taking a step back. And yeah, I mean, we've seen our businesses scale rapidly from 1 million, 10 up to 100 million in revenue by implementing these type of systems in our own business as well as in our consulting division.
Brilliant. Oh, I love that. I've got a few lessons there as well. Now, the last question is grit.
Yeah.
Grit alone isn't enough. So, number one, grit alone isn't enough. And number two, what is grit?
Okay.
Oh, maybe the other way around. What is grit and why isn't it enough?
Yeah. I mean, grit, I think, is really the key into any business. You got to be able to have thick skin. If you want to be an entrepreneur, I mean, all these
Mm.
influencers and everyone makes it seem like, even, the success where I'm at right now, people think, my wife and I, that it was just easy where we got. I mean, we went through hell to get to where we are today. A lot of sleepless nights, people
Mm.
saying it'll never work, a lot of negativity, a lot of failures, a lot of like not knowing how we're going to keep the lights on in the business. And it takes everything you have, especially early on in the business, to get it to a point, even to get up to that $1 million. It takes grit, hard work, thick skin, vision, faith that you're going to make it through that. And, I really feel once you kind of get up to that million stage, it takes a lot of grit. And then if you want to go to that next level, then you got to take a step back, and grit won't get you past that. So yeah.
That's brilliant. And sorry, that's what I was thinking as you said it. I was thinking, okay, grit will get you to 1 million, and that's why there's the ceiling, because getting beyond 1 million is delegating intelligently to the right people and being smart and taking a step back. Is that a fair assessment of what you just said?
Total fair assessment. And one thing I will say, Jason, is like my wife and I, when we started our business, it was pure grit. We're working from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night, doing everything we could to keep the business going and scaling. And then we kind of changed our mindset once she got pregnant with our first child. And she said, I don't want to do this 24/7, 365 business in operations. Yeah. And that's when I really kind of took a step back and realized, that there is a better way to build and scale a business. And once we actually did that and focused on right people, right seats, A players, and systems, and then performance, we scaled to heights I honestly could never have imagined. So I thought you just had to you had the grit to be successful, and I believe you need that for sure to get to a certain point. But if you really want to take things to the next level, you gotta have more than grit.
Brilliant. Okay, and the famous phrase, "What got you here won't get you there." Thank you, Josh. That was brilliant. And I love your conclusion because it makes so much sense. And I think it speaks to a lot of us who are at or around the $1 million mark, looking at how we can scale up. And a lot of it is let go, take a step back, delegate, get the right people. Thank you so much. That was delightful. Thank you everyone for watching. You get the outro song. A quick goodbye to end the show. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it.
Brilliant.
Your corporate and personal brands are what Google and AI say they are. We can give you back control. Telecube.